Hey, this is Perry's Hotter, your friendly neighborhood mangaka in the making. Making a manga review for you today. I will be reviewing Bestars, and for the most part, going over the first chapter and touching a little bit or more on the rest of the book or series overall. This will contain spoilers, so watch at your own risk. If it's a series you're thinking about reading or maybe didn't know about and didn't intend on reading, then hearing spoilers might just be the thing to make you decide whether you want to read it or not. If you already read it, then sit back, relax, enjoy my commentary analysis on what I think of this here book. Um, so the obvious thing I'll get out of the way. It's what the kids might call a furry. Uh, Anthropomorphic animals. And really, I just think the whole concept of calling people furries is pretty stupid. There have always been anthropomorphic animals since the comic strips have been around. The Looney Tunes, Tom and Jerry. People don't call them furries, or people like those furries, but then you put an animal in clothes in a human-like society, and then it's like, oh, that changes everything. Uh, you know, I just like manga and comics and good stories. So now, without further ado, we'll talk about the first chapter. And so we have this character, Tim, an alpaca, who is being hunted and stalked by someone that he knows. And we get this inner monologue from him. And while he's being chased, he's saying, "Hey, are you actually going to? We've taken so many classes together. Could it be that I get it now? You never really thought of us as equals, did you? To carnivores like you, we're just food." There's a silhouetted figure. We don't know who it is. And then Alpaca's last words, Tim, he says, "You carnivores are all monsters." And then he's murdered. And then we cut away to this group of dogs and some uniforms playing cards. A herbivore walks out and turns away from them. And Jack, that's this character's name, says, "Weird, she must not have seen me." But that's not the real reason. This is some subtle persecution because the murder has been discovered, and there's a scene out here at Cherryton High. That's a school that these dogs, these Canidi, attend. And so this chick talks to Jack, this whatever she is. That gray wolf Legoshi is one of your roommates, right? Give him this notebook. And he says, "Huh? Why don't you give it to him yourself at drama club today? Are you kidding? I'm not talking to a humongous gray wolf the day after a herbivore was eaten. It's too risky." And then we see a hand here, and it belongs to none other than Legoshi, acting not suspicious at all. Then we're here at the drama club, and the herbivores have segregated themselves from the carnivores because of what's happened. Every time a herbivore is murdered by a carnivore, tensions kind of rise, because in this society, herbivores and carnivores are expected to live harmoniously together, but they go against their nature. And as a result, there's some persecution, mostly from the herbivores to the carnivores, unfortunately, making life harder for them. And there's an argument and between drama club members from both sides. And then the spotlight comes on, and it's none other than Legoshi again, totally not being suspicious up in the rafters or wherever he is. And they were talking about the victim, Tim, the alpaca, and say, you hung out with Tim a lot. Do you know anything about this, Legoshi? And he says, I think Tim had a lot of regrets because there were so many things he hadn't had the chance to do yet. And they're just saying, like, how would you know? That sounds really suspicious. And he singles out this female alpaca, Els, and he asks her, how do you feel about Tim's death? Are you sad? And she says, why are you asking me? I hardly knew him. And then later on, she's with the other female drama club members discussing how strange Legoshi was acting, how weird he was. It's very intimidating. And then cut to the boys' locker room of the drama club. And Legoshi is going through Tim's locker, and this is coming suspicious to his classmates. And, they're questioning him, saying, you look suspicious. Anyway, it's late at night. Moon is out. He's walking. And then Els is also walking with a friend, being escorted. That makes sense. Even if herbivores didn't live in fear of being devoured by carnivores, it makes sense for a young girl to be accompanied on a school campus. And they're, discussing Legoshi. And her friend is worried for her, so that's why she's accompanying her. And I guess they're near her dorm. They part ways, but then she realizes, oops, I forgot my watch. I must have left it in the rehearsal studio. How could I do that? My boyfriend gave it to me. So, she's going to go risk her life for a watch. Even though she knows a murder is on the loose. Couldn't just wait till the next day. But it's okay because of what happens next. She's in there in the dark. Didn't bother turning the lights on. So someone turns the lights on for her. A spotlight by none other than Legoshi. He says, you didn't even turn the lights on. And she says, well, why are you here, Legoshi? I needed to be alone with you. I followed you when I saw you were heading back to the rehearsal room. So while Legoshi was out, he followed her. I was going to use the spotlight for Tim's big scene. I modified it so the light would highlight the beautiful sheen of his wool. It's like Tim is standing there right now. And anyway, he jumps down, approaches her, gesturing towards her, and she is petrified. She picks up scissors to defend herself. She starts making a case for herself because she thinks she's about to be devoured by this giant gray wolf, the largest canidae that there is in this universe. And while they're struggling over the scissors, and she drops them, a letter falls from Legoshi with like a little heart sticker sealing it. And he tells her to pick it up, and it's addressed to her from Tim. And she says, is this? He says, it's the love letter that Tim was never able to give you. So all you wanted was to give this letter to me? Tim and I hung out a lot, so I saw him returning the letter to his pocket every day. So it's revealed Tim was Legoshi was pretty close friends with Tim, and he knew that Tim had this letter, and he was working up the courage to give it to Els, his crush. And Legoshi knew about this. So when Tim died, that's why he knew that Tim died with regrets, something he didn't get to do. So Legoshi, as it turns out, isn't a bad dude and likely didn't murder Tim, because all this time he was just trying to be a bro, you know, do his man a solid. And so they talk afterwards, as she realizes she was all wrong about him. And and Legoshi just brushes it off. He knows that as a carnivore, he's always going to be persecuted, and he just kind of has this attitude. It is what it is, and he doesn't care. And that's the first chapter. So, just based off the first chapter alone, this series might have you think this is solely about a gray wolf going through the persecution of a carnivore in a herbivore world. And it's not entirely wrong, but this is a love story, and Haru isn't even introduced. Haru is this rabbit that Legoshi falls in love with. So it's sort of a forbidden love because he's a carnivore and she's a herbivore. And she isn't even introduced until this third chapter here. But even before her, this guy, Lewis, the drama club officer, high school third year, a Red Deer, he is the star actor in the actors pool of the drama club. And at first, when I read this the first time, I thought he was like going to be a villain or antagonist to Legoshi. He was going to be like a goal for Legoshi to overcome or beat. But I was very wrong. He's more in the vein of like a Vegeta or Sasuke to Legoshi's main character status as a Goku or Naruto. But even then, he's not even necessarily a rival, but he does become a part of Legoshi's Nakama, I would think, even though they don't seem to really be friends, but you'll just have to read and find out. And so, Volume 1, it's a bit unconventional. It's like the story isn't really plotted how it should be or how a story would normally be plotted. And like in my Chainsaw Man review, Chainsaw Man is unpredictable in good ways. Bestars is sort of unpredictable, but not necessarily in a good way. And what I mean by that is this series will have you thinking, okay, this is going to be like a drama, right? Legoshi is in love with this rabbit girl, but, she is in this relationship with, spoilers, the Red Deer. And so Legoshi is going to have to compete with him to win her over, and he's going to have to, switch over to the actor pool and become all cool and suave because he's actually very weird, so he's going to have to change quite a bit. And I thought this is really where the series is going. Boy, was I wrong. It does not go in that direction at all. This manga, I don't know if I would call it, if it's really a shoujo or not, even though it has a focus on romance. I'm not familiar with shoujo. I don't read it, and I don't really intend to, but nonetheless, I'm not familiar with the tropes and conventions of shoujo, but I am familiar with the tropes and conventions of a shonen manga. And let me tell you, this turns into a straight up battle manga. And at some point, this story goes off the rails, in my opinion, with the introduction of the Ishigami. I think that's what they're called. It's a gang of lions. That's when it starts to go into manga battle territory. Even when he meets his mentor that trains him, it's like he goes through a training arc. And in my opinion, I enjoy Bestars because I wanted to read a story that was specifically about the main character and his love interest, because you never get enough of that in shonen battle manga. They always wait till the end to ship everyone together, and you never see the main character or main cast with their love interests, and you just miss out on seeing that chemistry. And here you just certainly do get to see it on display a lot. But when it starts to go into battle manga territory, it like takes a back seat because then Haru is barely in the series, and it's just a strict focus on Legoshi and his battle antics, and so you miss out on a lot of that. And in my opinion, Paru, the author, Itagaki, she's a female mangaka. Her strength, she's good at everything else she's doing in Beastars, but Beastars doesn't necessarily make for a good battle manga. I don't think that's her strength. And it's like the battles aren't really that exciting. I look forward to everything in between the fights. Not really her strength, not really her strong suit. And another thing that's introduced that is a Beastar. A Beastar is like supposedly a politician or celebrity. They could be a herbivore or carnivore, but the point is they have overcome the prejudices and what that entails, and won over the respect of both sides, and have become successful despite adversity. And Lewis, the Red Deer, he is like a candidate for a Beastar. Like it's something that can be just like voted on or something. And Legoshi, he's not really desiring to become a Beastar, but obviously the path he's following will lead him down that, because if he goes into a relationship with a herbivore and is successful, that's actually pretty progressive of him. Like, so of course I could see that taking him down the path of a Beastar, to successfully do this thing. And there's some other things about Legoshi about his backstory that is revealed, that's even hinted at in this book, that isn't revealed until much later, but I won't spoil that. But it is interesting, and it kind of makes sense. But it's just weird because this first chapter, it does a good job of introducing Legoshi, that he's kind of weird, but he's actually harmless. He's a big teddy bear. He's big and intimidating. He's a nice guy that just tries to stay under the radar for the most part. But what the first chapter doesn't introduce Haru, so we don't get to know that this is a love story, and it doesn't introduce the concept of Beastars. They're introduced later in the book, and that's the thing that Beastars, it introduces information over time, just like any series or manga, but these things seem really crucial, like you would want to nail down in the first chapter to introduce the premise. That's usually the job of the first chapter. But it is covered in the first volume, so it's not like you won't be missing out because it wasn't in the first chapter necessarily. But I just think that would make for a better, to get a hold of you and educate you what the series is going to be about. And because the Lewis and Drama Club and all that could have been introduced later. And also the murder mystery, I really think the murder mystery could have been cut out, because like I said, the series goes off the rails with the introduction of the Ishigami. I may be saying that wrong, but it's the Gang of Lions. I may have got their name wrong. But the murder mystery could have done without, because it's like it's not solved for a few volumes, but it will result in a fight, one of the battles. And yeah, it is what it is. So if you enjoy a world with anthropomorphic animals, I recommend this manga. If you want to see a forbidden romance, love story, that sort of thing, I recommend this manga. Battle manga for shonen, not so much if that's what you're looking for. I don't know that Legoshi makes for necessarily a good shonen protagonist. I do like him as a protagonist, and there are things about him, like he has like convictions, and I feel like there's something I don't really get to see too much with protagonists in manga that I've read. But I don't know, there are other qualities, like he doesn't, I don't know, I think he loses too much in my opinion. Seems like he kind of takes L's quite a bit. But like I said, that's part of the reason why I don't think this makes a good battle manga. I felt like I would have enjoyed this manga more if it just stayed in its lane and just been about the romance and the drama, because it's so much more, infinitely more interesting and entertaining. But sadly, it's not the case. I'm gonna stick with the series. I want to see where it goes and how it ends, because there's so many other interesting things about it, like the lore and backstory on the world building. There are like side chapters that have nothing to do with the main story. They don't progress the main story at all, but they do build out the world, and they're like funny and entertaining. Um, Reading them on a monthly basis, it was kind of annoying because it'd take away from the main story. But when I'm reading in the tankobon format, it's a nice change of pace and doesn't really frustrate me in that case. But anyway, nevertheless, that's a review. If you enjoyed it, leave me a comment on what you thought and what other series you would like me to review. If you want to see me future reviews, and be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell as well, so you'll be notified when I upload next review every week or so. I'm trying to upload these on a weekly basis. And I have my own manga, actually, by the way, called Cold Blooded. It is a shonen battle manga about Rembrandt Snart, who misses his father, and while holding out hope on his father's disappearance 5 years ago, my cat is in the way. He discovers latent reptilian abilities brought out by a shadowy figure determined to end his life. Cold Blood is available to read on Webtoon, Tapastic, and some other sites as well. Links are in the description. I also have a Patreon and email list. You can check those out as well. So if you ain't read Bestars, what are you waiting for? Go read it right now.